I got something cool I wanted to react to. I want to talk a little bit about, and, well, without further ado, let's just dive on in. Okay, this is from Atari. Looks pretty cool. Welcome back to 2600 plus. Okay. I've already seen this, but this is the second time I'm going through it. Good music too. Very 70s, but not like too disco-y 70s. Okay, 10 games of one cartridge. Okay, some classic titles in there. No Pitfall though. Was there? Once I missed it. That's the big thing I wanted to talk about. This too. That's the famous slogan if you played Atari today. 2600 plus. Alright, so, where do I get started with this thing? I have to preface, I'm not an Atari like super fan or mega fan or hardly a fan, really, because I didn't grow up with Atari at all. I was a Super Nintendo Sega Genesis kid. However, this does present something interesting because we've seen a lot of these mini consoles, right? The Nintendo, the mini NES, the mini Famicom, mini Super Nintendo, mini Super Famicom. Recently we had the PlayStation Classic Mini, which is We also had the Sega Genesis Mini 1 and 2, right? Which sold out almost instantly, right? So, I just thought about this, and this is such an amazing idea. Right? And so Atari's actually been on these mini consoles forever. They've been doing these like all-in-one sort of things with all their top titles for years and years and years and years before the big companies have been doing it. What's very intriguing to me is, I don't know if this is a small size or not, but it looks basically the same. There's the joystick, it means you could probably use a Sega Genesis controller. So it's got the 10 games in one. This is interesting, right? Because usually the other games before, I have one of these, I think, at my house, in America. The games were built into the console, right? It seems like they're not being built in this time, but they're just on a ROM cartridge here. So it's, yeah, 10 games in one. It's got your Adventure, Combat, Dodge 'em, Haunted House. Haunted House is really fun. Maze Craze, Missile Command, Real Sports Volleyball, Surround, Video Pinball, and Yard's Revenge. That's the really, really popular one, I think. So look at this. So you put it in there, and it's playing the games. This is crazy to me. So think about this for a second. Not only are you playing the games, it's compatible with original 2600 and 7800 cartridges. The length of that compatibility, I don't know. Not apparently, there is a design document on their website that details what games are compatible. That's huge. That is huge. Because if you got them lying around, why not use them? And this right here, okay, HD output. So it's like, well, duh, it's a modern console, so of course it's going to have HDMI. Hear me out. Hear me out on this. And this comes back to the idea I had here. We got this console. It's a revamped, a refreshed version of Atari, right? What is to stop other game companies from doing the same exact thing? Think about it. Call me crazy. If Nintendo, which they probably never will, if they release like a new Super Nintendo, a new NES, or a new N64, could you imagine? Just think about that for a second. They sold an N64 as is with HDMI, right? And it's got like a cartridge with like 10 games on there, games that are on the Nintendo Switch already. Oh my gosh. That would be crazy. I feel like they would sell like hotcakes. I really, 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 really think they would. I think they would sell more than a Switch would. Easily. Okay, so I got something I think it was on here on Nintendo Life. Nintendo creator, the NES creator, the man who designed the NES, really the Famicom and the Super Famicom, it should be noted. Masayuki Uemura, unfortunately he passed away, so rest his soul. There was something really interesting he said, and I didn't even give this any mind years ago, but okay. This is it right here. So Nintendo Life, I think it's Nintendo Life, they asked him, how does it feel now to look at the new wave of classic edition micro consoles produced by Nintendo? And he said, why make it mini? I think they could still develop a regular Famicom and people would still buy it. I agree. I think for a lot of people, a Famicom Mini might just be the first time they are playing or experiencing using the system. You're saying that you would want to be the original experience again. The issue with that, with the controller, was smaller. That's one reason I hate the Famicom Mini, because they had to shrink it down because the controllers fit on the side. So it's just not that good. But then I remember the NES Classic got the same size controller as the regular NES, so it's better. Yeah, that's basically it. And then they said, you know, if you sat down and designed the Famicom today, it would be the first thing you change. If you look at it, the controller is actually connected with the cable. Right? It's hardwired into the system. They didn't use a connector. We changed it for the next console, the Super Famicom, right? So this is very interesting. He is not wrong here, I think. I think he is not wrong, like 1,000,000%. And leave it to Atari. They've kind of been ahead of the curve with these cool ideas because they're not coming out with any new stuff. But how can they repackage and repurpose nostalgia? This might be it. It might be crazy. It might be too expensive to produce them. People might not, at least bigger companies might not, you know, find any stock in it. But this wouldn't be the first time Nintendo's done this, right? When the Super Famicom came out, they purposely redesigned the NES so they can have them side by side. That's why a lot of consoles in Japan, you'll notice if you buy them, you'll be like, okay, like a cable's missing. Usually it'll be either the power cable or like the AV cable. That's because they expected you to swap the cables between the consoles, right? I know the Switch is the new thing, it's the big thing, but I think Wimmerda is right here. Why not put out an HD Famicom that is, it's got 15 games on one cartridge, again like a classic mini had, or 30 games, whatever, and you could set the price to $150, $200, whatever. Make it compatible with all the original, or at least most of the original cartridges. I think that is a huge hit just waiting to happen. And hey, and not even just Nintendo, Sega, please, that would be absolutely insane. Making a Sega Genesis that is USB powered, it doesn't have a huge power brick. Sure, it can be emulated, that's fine. It's not going to be perfect, you know, whatever. Why not? Why not make it happen? And I know before anyone starts typing in the comments, I know analog, and everyone's like, well, what about the Mega SG and the Super NT and all that? Those are all discontinued anyway, and who knows what analogs are. They are not reliable because they're apparently they're a small production company, but I really think they just limit their products on purpose. But I don't want to get in trouble again because people were complaining about the last time I complained about that a few years ago. But a company with Sega's resources, a company with Nintendo's resources, those are the two big players I'm thinking about. If Analog is doing it, they could certainly do it, and those analog consoles sell out without any extra games, right? I'm starting to realize Nintendo and Sega are kind of crazy for not looking into this market. They really are. The fact that you can have an updated Atari, it seems like, I don't know why I'm so surprised by this, but it's just like, duh, if you think about it, right? We're updating these old consoles for the new age, and yes, usually that's done with backwards compatibility, so you don't have to have the old console free up space. But I mean, I think it's a wicked idea. I think it's really cool. I would love to see, I'd love to see everything. I'd love to see a new Dreamcast, a Sega Saturn, of course. Maybe you can't have it perfectly. That's fine. It doesn't have to be original hardware. Make them emulation-esque boxes. I mean, that's what this is. Apparently, that's what this thing is supposed to be, I think. Let me check. Okay, so we're here on the Atari website, and it's $130 US. Just about $129.99. The Atari 2600 Plus. And by the way, like I said, this thing also plays Atari 7200 cartridges as well. So it's got a huge library if you have the games. Look how cool this is. We got the cartridge slot here. You can put the games in and it works. It's so awesome. Let's see, you got the 10-in-1, which again is a fantastic idea. I absolutely love it. Alright, so we got a Q&A here, right? Will this play Atari game cartridges? And absolutely. Right, and cartridges from the Atari XP program. That I don't know about. I think they were doing something new recently. I'm not quite sure. Then how is this different from the Atari VCS? Again, the VCS is like a modern console. Again, I have no idea about that. I think it was out a while ago. I'm not quite sure. Is it smaller, the original, okay, the very large footprint, 80, okay, so it's very tiny. So the 2600 plus is able to retain the iconic look of the original, easier to fit in modern image spaces. So pretty tiny, okay, 80% of the original size. That's not that bad. That's not that bad. The original was pretty big. It looks awesome, but it was pretty big. Nice wooden, cool design. Okay, and it's compatible with the original Atari hardware. Again, very, very cool. Could you imagine just having an NES, being able to plug in an original NES controller if you have one, or being able to buy newly produced Nintendo NES or Mega Drive control? Actually, yes, you can buy new Mega Drive controllers because of Retrobit, right? They're putting those out there. So we've already got them there. So there's clearly a market for that, right? Because those are selling, and those sell pretty well. So here's the big thing here. Does the Atari 2600 use emulation software to play cartridges? And yes, it does. The Atari 2600 Plus uses emulation technology to play game cartridges. It says view the full list of compatible games here. And I don't know these. I don't know if it's a lot. There's a few pages, quite a few pages. Some are tested, untested. Why is this on? I think this is looking very, very cool. I love the very idea of this thing existing, and I hope this opens the floodgates for Nintendo to hopefully take advantage. Sega, if anything, Sega's the last hope. I would love for them to put out that Mega Drive one more time and put it out with with game compatibility. That would be huge. Now, some people might say, well, Tony, the problem is they're going to put these out, but the games are limited. They don't produce them anymore. Okay, well then produce more games then. Who cares, right? Or make more 10-in-1 cartridges or something like that. Why not? You can make different multi-carts for these games. I mean, who cares? Or maybe sell them online, have a store. Imagine if Sony did this with like a PlayStation 2. That one's kind of been notoriously hard to emulate. But imagine they have just a PS2 sort of emulator box from Sony, so to speak, built in-house, or maybe it's using original hardware, I don't know, something like that. It would be awesome. I think it would be fantastic. It's essentially their upgraded consoles, and that would be so cool to have. But anyways, sorry, I'm repeating myself now. What do you all think about this? I think this is a fantastic idea. I'm all for it, and I just can't believe, again, I can't believe other companies haven't jumped on an idea like this. Hopefully this is successful. I'm gonna try to pick one up if I can here in Japan, just to support the idea. Maybe it can get developers to put out something like this as well. The big guys, Nintendo and Sega, are the real hopefuls. I'm just really hoping they can do something similar. Again, a Super Famicom even. Nintendo doesn't even have to do both of them. Put out a Super Famicom or an N64. I'm sold, right? Just like a multi system that plays everything, these old cartridges, updated for the modern era. You can have scanline options, all this other stuff. It would be fantastic. And again, the collectors would go out and buy them. They'd sell like hotcakes. I think it's a win-win. I don't know. But again, let me know what you think. Thanks again for watching GPX Japan. Catch you in the next video. Take care.